doctor asked my husband to administer injection in swine fluids himself?
After my family came to know about my HIV status, they immediately separated my plates, my towels, my glasses, and even gave me a separate bedroom to sleep in.
The hospital staff has given us a yellow card so that people can easily identify us as HIV positive.
The remarks made by the hospital staff made me feel ashamed.
Please tell my mother asked my husband to administer injection in swine fluids HIV.
The voices you heard are those that haunt me. Filled with pain, they reflect a sad and bitter truth. The truth of discrimination. Hi, my name is Aditya and I am HIV positive. I was diagnosed as having this disease about 6 months ago. This was the worst thing which could have happened to me. And yet the best for it made me step out of my little safe world and view reality as it can be. Harsh, unrelenting, and cruel. It took me on a journey of discovery that was an eye-opener for me. Come, let me take you for the ride of my life.
As I said, I was diagnosed as being HIV positive 6 months back. How I contracted it is not that important. What is important is what followed the diagnosis. I was a popular guy, both in college as well as at home. Everybody's buddy, their best friend, even a teacher's pet. But all that soon changed.
Hello?
Hey Mohit, hey, how are you, yaar? Hey, listen, I was thinking let's catch up a movie tonight. Let's say Spidey 3.
Sorry yaar, but my uncle from Canada is in town and I really have to be with him because if I'm not, then mom will be really pissed. I hope you understand.
Sure, no problem. Some other time maybe.
In the beginning, I thought that these were just random incidents. But slowly, it dawned on me that people are deliberately distancing themselves from me. My own parents had a tough time accepting my condition, so how could I blame others? I was treated either as an infection or with pity, that too from a distance.
But after I found myself being left alone, I got to thinking that why is this happening to me? Is it just me? Or do other people with this disease too face the same discrimination? Here is what I found.
HIV-AIDS has been called the worst human crisis in the modern era. In terms of death and desolation, its numbers far exceed the combined effects of the 2 world wars of the last century. HIV-AIDS today is not a mere disease. It is a global catastrophe. The stigma attached to HIV-AIDS leads to discrimination against the infected people and their families. It marginalizes the infected as well as the affected. People living with HIV-AIDS do not verbalize the pain they suffer due to the stigma attached, and this has a devastating impact psychologically. the discrimination they face begins right with the fetus.
I'm 8 months pregnant and I'm HIV positive. A few days back, when I visited a government hospital for treatment, I was turned down because I was not under their area and was referred to another hospital which would be under my area. But after going there, after numerous visits, I was not given adequate medical attention. After a few days, when I met another doctor through an NGO, I was told that had I been given adequate medical attention, the right medicines, the risk of my child being an HIV positive could have been negated.
The ignorance and callousness of the people result in the unchecked mushrooming of the problem. According to a survey done by NACO, 37,57,477 people across the country were suffering from HIV-AIDS in the year 2002. Since then, there has been an estimated 33% rise, with about 5 million people believed to be infected by the HIV-AIDS virus in India. However, recent surveys show a much lower figure. It is believed that 2 to 3.1 million people in the country are living with this disease.
The worst to suffer are the children. They suddenly find themselves alienated from the extended family. The love and affection of the grandparents, the spoiling by the aunts and uncles, the friendships of the cousins, all disappear.
सबने मुझसे बचाव करना शुरू कर दिया। जब मैं उनके घर पर जाती थी तो मेरे बच्चे पानी पीते थे गिलास में, वो पानी अलग रख देते थे। अब पहले से अपने बच्चों को बता देते थे, मटके के पास भी नहीं जाने दिया करते।
This neglect does not end there. They are denied their most basic right, a right that is in the Constitution, the right to education. This discrimination is not limited to those children suffering from the disease. It also spreads to the non-HIV children of HIV parents.
अच्छा स्कूल इंग्लिश मीडियम से तो हमने उसका नाम लिखाया, तो हमने 1 महीने बाद बताया कि हमारा बच्चा HIV पॉजिटिव है। उन्होंने बोला हम आपके बच्चे को लिखा लेंगे, हमारा नाम खराब होता है स्कूल से, ऐसे बच्चों को अगर स्कूल हम पढ़ाएंगे तो हमारा स्कूल का नाम खराब होगा। हमने बोला चलो हमारे बड़े बेटे को लिखा रहे हो तो छोटे बेटे को पढ़ा लो, तो उन्होंने बोला नहीं जी हमारा नाम खराब होगा, जब तुम्हारे उस बड़े बच्चे को तो आपको भी तो होगी।
कुछ स्कूल ऐसे हैं जो HIV पीड़ित बच्चों को दाखिला नहीं देते और उन्हें हम देते हैं, लेकिन हमारे सामने एक समस्या आती है कि जिन बच्चों के जिन माता पिताओं के बच्चे स्वस्थ हैं वे हमारे लिए आपत्ति जताते हैं कि हमारे बच्चों के ये रोग छूने से लग जाएंगे, खाना खाने से लग जाएंगे। हम उन्हें कई बार समझाते हैं और हम उन बच्चों को लेते हैं जो HIV पीड़ित हैं, और ऐसा उनका भ्रम गलत है कि छूने से होता है, ना खाने से होता है, ना छूने से होता है, एक साथ बच्चे खेलते हैं, ना खेलने से होता है।
The insensitivity, the apathy is deep-seated. Concentrated efforts are required to check the problem.
The government has to ensure that the children's right to education is enforced. After all, not every child is as lucky as Bensi and Benson. 7-year-old Bensi and her 5-year-old brother Benson were denied admissions in schools in Kerala due to their being HIV positive. However, with the intervention of National Human Rights Commission, their dream of getting an education was fulfilled.
The discrimination is not limited to schools. I too faced the same problem. I wanted to do my MBA, and in spite of clearing all the examinations with flying colors, I was denied admissions everywhere. But by now, I knew what my rights were, so I fought for them. And today, I'm a student at a very reputed institute. But I know that my fight does not end here. Once I leave the institute and step into the workplace, I may again have to fight for my rights, like this gentleman has to.
I'm as a chef, so because every 5-star hotel, there is some, my medical examination is the first, and that's the compulsory is a HIV test also. So that's why we are suffering is the last 4 years in Delhi. Without job, how we are suffering, because without money there is no life.
It is a sad truth that everyone living with HIV-AIDS faces discrimination. But the sadder truth is that women face more discrimination as compared to men. In general, a woman does all the household chores and manages the family. Ironically, it is that family which discriminates against her the most. This discrimination is not limited to any one class, but is spread through the entire society.
मैं टेस्ट नहीं कराने गई और मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ, तो मैंने अपने पति से कहा कि मेरे साथ चलो, क्योंकि डॉक्टर ने बोला था कि तुम्हें साथ जाना है अपने पति के। तो मेरे पति ने जी मुझे ऐसा सवाल किया, जी मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ, कह देना कि मेरा पति है नहीं।
Doctors, nurses, healthcare givers who have better medical knowledge of the disease, they too are not above discriminating against HIV/AIDS patients.
Unfortunately, the sad part is that still, there are a lot of paramedics as well as doctors who are scared to handle HIV patients, and they do land up in some sort of a discrimination. The other day, I had a patient of HIV who had a fracture, and the orthopedic surgeon whom I referred to was reluctant to see this patient, and I had to actually get another orthopedic surgeon who was counseled and who was sensitized regarding the disease, and he took care of the patient. There is another big factor that insurance companies, they also discriminate between HIV and non-HIV patients. In fact, till date, HIV/AIDS, although it is treatable, I'm not saying curable, but it is treatable like high blood pressure and other, it is still an exclusion from insurance. Just by casual contact, by usual, shaking hands, by sharing towels, by eating together, mosquitoes, flies, all these things cannot spread HIV by any means.
The law has put in many safeguards in place to protect the rights of the people living with HIV/AIDS. Yet, not many people know of them.
The Constitution of India gives some fundamental rights to all its citizens, and which are also available to HIV positive people. So most of the cases that we do come under some typical articles of the Constitution, they being Article 14, which is right to equality and equal protection before the laws, Article 16, right to equal opportunities in employment under the state, Article 21, right to life, which also covers the right to health, and Article 21A, the most recent article, giving the fundamental right to education. The Lawyers Collective has been working on a draft bill on HIV/AIDS since 5 years along with the government, where we got the mandate from the government to draft a bill on HIV/AIDS. So we have drafted it, and it is now with the Law Ministry and the Health Ministry, and we are hoping that it will be presented to Cabinet and in Parliament soon. So largely, predominantly, the bill is an anti-discrimination statute, and most of the important features of the bill pertaining to discrimination are that it covers the private sector, which the articles under the fundamental rights under the Constitution are limited in that scope, because they are not available against the private sector, they are mostly available against the public sector.
It is important that the people living with HIV/AIDS get the rights that are theirs. Helping them in this fight is National Human Rights Commission, always at the forefront of a fight for a life of dignity and respect.
We recognize the need to fight for the rights of the HIV/AIDS patients. There are certain areas that the Commission has identified and has taken action towards addressing them. We have found instances from across the country where children have been turned away from schools, clinics and orphanages because they or their family members are HIV positive. We have found instances where people have been denied employment or promotions due to the HIV/AIDS status. The medical profession too is not without bias. NHRC is fighting against this discrimination. HIV/AIDS affected patients also have their rights. They have a right to education, right for employment, right for social acceptance, right for treatment, and thus it is necessary that these rights are honored.
It is not easy living with the disease. Apart from the physical pain, we also have to suffer great trauma at the hands of an ignorant society. It is not HIV that kills us, but the society. That too much before our time. We have as much right to live with dignity as the next person does. So treat us with respect, not as a favor to us, but because we deserve it.
People suffering from HIV/AIDS, they die 1,000 deaths every day. They die every time you turn your faces away from them. Die every time you don't shake your hands with them, refuse to shake your hands, or every time you make an excuse for not giving them a warm hug. Basically, they are dying every time when they are denied basic human comfort, which is so needed. So every time you show your ignorance towards this disease and let prejudice overrule common sense, people suffering from HIV/AIDS, you're killing their soul. We should all understand that they have a right to live with respect and dignity as much as we have a right to. So let us just give it to them as their right and not as some gift we are showering on them.